We know that's the path to misery. We just know that, right? Walking home at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, sitting down by yourself in your apartment, in your home, and then pulling up this imaginary relationship device is a recipe for every marker in your mental and emotional health to fall off a cliff. It's a matter of not trying to hack and cut and swipe, and I'm just going to keep showing up and keep showing up. And that makes for dreadfully boring Instagram reels. It's not good media, but we're not media, we're people. When I'm 50, if I'm not continually learning and evolving with knowledge, with new groups of people, I'm out.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by life's daily grind, caught in the endless scroll of social media, and wondering how to find happiness while living paycheck to paycheck? Well, in this eye-opening episode, Dr. John Delony shares practical insights on where people mistakenly look for happiness, why quick fixes never work, and the cyclical traps of financial stress. You want to break free from the paycheck to paycheck grind? Listen to what Dr. Delony offers. He gives actionable insights to transform your daily habits and mindset. So stick around. You're going to hear real strategies on how to slow down, find balance, and reclaim the life that you're looking for. Being a Jew, awesome. Managing personal finances, not so awesome. Welcome to Kosher Money. We're here with Dr. John Delony in the flesh. You got this, John. I'll walk you right through this.
I'm nervous, man.
No, don't be nervous.
Nah, I'm playing.
I have a lot to talk about.
Let's do it.
More people than you think know who you are. So I put it out there and I said, hey, I'm going to have Dr. Delony on. They're like, oh, ask him this, ask him this. I said, guys, I have about 45 minutes with
let's
him.
go, man. Let's do it.
So I try to select as many questions as I could that I think will have relevance to our community and beyond. And I want to start with, and these are things that if someone is familiar with you, I don't think we're going to touch on anything you've never spoken about, but I sort of want to package it in for our community and just deliver it on a silver platter.
I love that, man.
Okay, so, and these questions, most of them are not mine, so I can't take credit for how good they are.
Let's do it.
How do you find individuals best achieving and maintaining joy, generosity while living paycheck to paycheck? Because it's a grind. It's hard, right? We could talk a little bit about your background, but when you come home and you're worn out 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and today with the devices in our pockets, it's never ending. And yet you open up Instagram, you open up, your WhatsApp, you see on social media, everyone's living the good life. How do you bridge that gap?
I think you just reverse engineer what you just said, because we know that's the path to misery. We just know that, right? Walking home at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, sitting down by yourself in your apartment, in your home, and then pulling up this imaginary relationship device is a recipe for every marker in your mental and emotional health to fall off a cliff. So I know that, right? Just like our grandparents would get stressed and go outside and smoke a cigarette. And that cigarette worked. It did. They calmed down a little bit, came back into the office or whatever, and it killed them, right? And so it does numb us out. When we get home, we're tired. We don't want to go do anything. We don't want to go to the market, whatever. It's easy just to plop down on the couch at 7 o'clock and you look up and it's 8:45 and you've just been scrolling. And then you grab some crappy meal in the microwave and you go to bed, right? We have to know that's the modern day death march. And so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to participate in that. So what does that mean? It's awful because our grandparents maybe didn't have air conditioning inside. So they had to sit on the front porch, which means they had to talk to everybody walking by and you end up in these 45-minute, hour-long conversations about nothing but everything. And so I have to be hyper intentional about being in relationship with real people and making a point to say, I'm off at 6, we're meeting at such and such place. I don't have any money. All I'm getting is water and chips and salsa or whatever, wherever you happen to be. I'm from Texas, and so that's the free thing they drop on the table, right? But I'm going to make it a point. I'm going to do something ridiculous like join an adult softball league or go bowling or go play chess in the park. I'm going to do something because I know the alternative is I'm choosing to be miserable and die early. And I'm just tired of us all making that choice.
It's almost like we should create a social network where in order to engage, you need to post the worst thing that happened to you that day, right? Like take it down a notch.
Possibly.
Right.
Or not even the worst thing. I think across the board, whether it's mental health, emotional health, nutrition, workouts, what everybody's coming to put on the table is or money, there's no hack. It's just slow and boring. You want to get in better shape, do something every day, and then you're going to look up in 2 years and be like, oh man, I look radically different. Change the way you eat, 80-20, right? Mostly eat healthy, and you're going to look up in 2 years and you're going to look different, right? Slowly take your thoughts captive, and choose good relationships. Say you're sorry, ask for forgiveness, ask your partner, like, what do you actually need? Like, how can I love you today? Right? Slowly, and you're gonna look up in 5 years, you're gonna have a great marriage. And so it's a matter of not trying to hack and cut and swipe, and I'm just gonna keep showing up and keep showing up. And that makes for dreadfully boring Instagram reels. Right? It's just not good. It's not good.
Right.
It's not good media, but we're not
content.
media, we're people.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a shortcut.
Right.
You just described prescription that takes 5 years. Right? I want that shot in the belly to make me lose weight. That's the culture. We want things fast, but you're saying that if we just slow it down, look at what's important, it might take time. You can get wealthy, you can get what you want, but be patient.
We've got to a place where we can't answer two questions. We can't answer the question, what do you want? Like, what do you actually want? And we can't answer the question, what do you think this is going to feel like when you get it? And we're wrong on that question almost always. And we don't even bother to ask the question, what do you want? So you go to the gym and you just poll everybody, why are you here? I want to be ripped, right? Or I want to look good. Or it wasn't until I sat down with a longevity doctor and I was like, he's like, why do you work out? And it wasn't until like we got to the end, oh, I want to be 85 and roll around on the floor with my grandkids. Okay, that's going to shape how we start exercising now and moving. And that also is going to shape, my sister's in town right now. She came up from Houston. She's my older sister, one of my favorite people on the planet. Dude, we spent way too long being out last night. And that meant I didn't work out today. But I'm playing a 40-year game. I'm not trying to get like 7-minute abs, right? I want to look good for my wife, right? But I'm playing a much different game, which means I'm going to spend a late night out with my sister and we're going to laugh and we're going to talk to people in the restaurant and we're going to go for a walk at midnight with my dogs. Like, it's a different thing because I'm playing a different game, right? But that starts with, what do you actually want? I want to be able to roll around when I'm 85 and I want to be surrounded by people I love. Okay, cool. We can reverse engineer that. I want to be comfortable with money, right? I don't want to have flashy things when I'm in my 40s. I want to be comfortable when I'm 85. Okay, well, then let's start just slowly chipping away at that thing. And it just gives you this magic thing that none of us have anymore, which is peace. We don't have that anymore, man.
There's a common saying in Judaism how Judaism's not about streaks, meaning, oh, I didn't do something. I was so good for 45 days,
that, man.
But I missed day 46 and it's all over. No. You fell down, you get back up.
Get up.
You fell down again, get back up again. And I sort of hear the same mentality when, okay, you didn't hit the gym today.
One of my rules is don't ever fall off the wagon, but do stop the wagon and climb down and roll around in the mud for a while. And so I'm going to be intentional about it.
Right.
Now, my people back here, like the work with me, they've seen me fall off the wagons when I'm coming in with bags of gummy candy, just like, don't talk to me, right? They see that. That's life. Right. But the growth for me is I don't hate myself for that anymore, right? Yesterday was prime whatever day.
Right.
I probably overdid it.
Free returns.
Yeah, but I don't hate myself today, right? I budgeted for it. I got a plan for it. It's not like I'm putting my family in the poorhouse. And I may need that survival straw that I can drink bad water one day. I may need that one day, right? So I just don't hate myself anymore. I'm going to get up and do better today.
You think people are hard on themselves?
I think we talk to ourselves in ways we would never let that guy in front of us talk to the woman at the counter.
Right.
We'd go to jail.
Right.
If we heard some guy talking to her that way, the way we talk to ourselves. Yeah. I think we are ruthless on ourselves.
What's the answer there?
You have to decide you're worth being loved, and that starts with you looking in the mirror and being okay with who you are. And I think the voices of our parents and the voices of our coaches and now the voices of these devices and the voices of our media ecosystem and the voices of our politicians have over time become our voices in our own heads to ourselves, right? And so if you just get a stream of you have to have this or you're broke, and if you don't look like this and she doesn't look like that and they don't look like that, It's not too long of a leap before I don't look like that. And if they're disgusting, they're gross, they're lazy, they're lame, I'm lazy, I'm gross, right? And if you don't think you're worth being loved, then you're certainly not worth going to the gym. You're not worth saving money. Just go out, right? You're not worth being a person of fidelity in your romantic relationships. Just blow it all because who cares, right? So you have to start with that baseline. Like, I'm going to talk to myself as positively as I can. And by the way, this is the pot talking to the kettle. That's the worst feedback I get on my shows. I'm always making jokes about myself, and I beat myself up a lot, and that's not healthy. It's not good.
Right. As much as this podcast is about money, I see a lot of the same themes coming up from our smart guests, including you. I'm going to put you in that bucket. I know it's early on in this episode, but I just put you in the smart bucket.
Man. Quite elite.
Physical fitness.
Yeah.
Right? You've brought it up a couple of times now. Some of the smartest people I've spoken to talk about that and how that translates into success, whether financially, career, with your family. There are people listening right now, hand in a Doritos bag, putting it in, feeling their stomach, noticing they may have put on a few extra pounds. For someone that isn't in that mentality, they're not ready to go to the gym every day. What would your recommendation be to them to be fit or to get into shape or to want to get into shape? And what effect could that have on their life?
It was a big revelation to me that on the whole, give or take, running 5 miles, running 2 miles, or walking 5 miles and walking 2 miles burns the same calories. You just get done with one faster. So go for a walk. Go for a walk. And begin just saying, I'm worth getting up and moving a little bit. Start there, man. And I think most of us, when we're like, all right, this is the day, we get that 72-page workout that's going to take us 2 hours, and we go to the gym. We get halfway through it. We're so sore we can't move for 4 days, and we just don't go back. And that's kind of the broed out, like if you go to like any fitness gym and you get a trainer, they'll go, it's just not sustainable, right? It's like going, like, I'm selling everything I own and I'm going to take care of my money. I just can't. It's just not sustainable. And so I would love for everybody to go for a walk. Just start walking. And if you're in New York, you walk. That's part of the culture, right? Yeah, I mean, it's part of the ecosystem there. Bigger than that, though, is I think it's understanding some of the nonsense we've been fed, which is when you're 40 and 50, your back just hurts. It's just part of it. It's not. Your knees just hurt. It's not true, right? Your body, if you don't use it, will stop taking care of that part of your body because our bodies are amazing. And if it's not being used, it's going to use those resources somewhere else. And so I want people to imagine how good you feel. And that's the part that I've got to now. I don't lift weights like to get jacked. I'm too old for that. I got kids. My wife didn't care. I want to feel good. And I've gotten to a place now where, dude, I love Doritos. Love them, right? One of my favorite sayings is don't forget to remember. And that is when I've got my hand in the bag, don't forget to remember how good you could feel in the morning if you stop. Or don't forget to remember that eating this bag of Doritos tomorrow morning is going to feel like you're hungover, right? And then you're not going to want to go to the gym. I'm going to be a little bit snappier with my kids. I'm going to snap at my wife, and then she's going to kind of back up, and then all my abandonment issues are going to set. It just starts a chain reaction. So don't forget to remember how good it feels after a walk. Don't forget to remember how good it feels just to put your dirty clothes in the hamper. Don't forget to remember how good it feels just take a shower and go to bed instead of going out and having another drink and another drink and another drink. Don't forget to remember how good it feels when you check your high yield savings account and you have your own emergency fund. Don't forget to remember how good that feels. Just that level of safety. And I'm not perfect at it. None of us are, but it's a good reminder. But when it comes to physical fitness, I think we have bought a line that our relationships are separate from our money, which are separate from our mental health, which is separate from our physical health. And that's just not true. It's all wound together. And our spiritual health, all that stuff is just woven together. And so you can't drive straight and fast on 3 tires. You have to have all 4, man. And so honoring and taking care of your body is just a cornerstone of an entire well life.
We'll be right back to our Kosher Money episode, though I have a question for you. Are you ready to experience a whole new level of comfort in your wardrobe? Let me introduce you to Twillory, the brand I've been telling you redefines what it means to look and feel your best no matter the occasion. Twillory's not just about dress shirts anymore. They've taken an innovative approach to comfort and applied it to the entire wardrobe. What do I mean? Let's talk about their air suit and air shorts. They are game changers. The air suit is unlike anything you've ever worn. It's designed with incredible technology that makes it lightweight, breathable, and insanely comfortable. Whether you're heading to a meeting, a wedding, or just need a nice suit for Shabbos, the air suit adapts to your body, keeping you cool and comfortable. Imagine a suit that moves with you, keeps you feeling fresh all day, and looks impeccable. Oh, and let's talk about the air shorts. Those are perfect for the warmer days when you want to stay sharp without overheating. Goes great with one of their polos. The shorts are made from the same high-performance fabric as you see in the air suit, giving you the same breathable, moisture-wicking comfort, who doesn't want that, in a casual, stylish package. So why wait? If you're listening to this in August 2024, they have a warehouse sale. If you're listening to this after August 2024, they always have incredible sales. Click around their website, take a look at twillory.com/koshermoney, and use the promo code CHAI, which is 18. You get $18 off your order of $139 and more. I believe it's free shipping, free returns. Trust me, once you try Twillory, you'll wonder how you've ever lived without it. As we move through 2024, many people are looking for and cashing in on tax deductions, which is why I've been telling you what more and more people are doing. They're putting money into a charitable entity without actually having to allocate the money to a specific cause right away. So how does it work? I'll tell you. It's called the Donors Fund. You create an account in under 60 seconds, and any money that's placed in the account is instantly eligible for an immediate tax deduction. You can then decide throughout 2024 and beyond where you'd like to allocate that money. It's absolutely free. No hidden charges, no funny business. If you love running around, pulling your hair out, trying to find your donation receipts across dozens of organizations, the Donors Fund is not for you. If you want everything streamlined in a single place, the Donors Fund is for you. All your donations, one button away. We're talking about a robust online platform, a super friendly mobile app. It features a bank-like system for your charitable giving. You can also invest the dollars to grow as you determine which charity to allocate the funds to. They offer checkbooks, debit cards, caring customer service, and more. So here's what to do. Visit thedonorsfund.org/koshermoney, links in the show notes, and create your account. Click around their website to learn more about it. The Donors Fund. Welcome to the future. And now back to this week's episode.
I want to pivot to wealth. We've spoken to people that have owned businesses. From the outside, they look extremely successful, and maybe they are. But when you dig down deep, they express loneliness, and they don't have the friends they used to. And I don't even mean like they can't trust people because of the wealth that they just feel like they don't have anyone. And if you would stop someone on the street and said, hey, look at that guy driving that car, living in that house, would you switch places with him? Yeah, where do I sign? Right? Let's walk through that. Yeah. Where's that loneliness coming from? And what advice do you have for people listening that have 7-8 digits in their bank account, but when they look at their heart, they're just sad?
I think that's one of the great curses of our time, that we have been bought and sold a story that is forsake relationships, forsake going to ball games with your kids, forsake date nights with your spouse, forsake hanging out with just your knuckleheaded buddies for stuff. And that will work. Happiness and joy and love is external. You got to go get it. And our grandparents know that's not true. And our great-great-great-grandparents knew that wasn't true. That's just one of the curses of our age. And so my career has been spent with both academically in my nerd world and with just practically sitting with people, with folks who made it, folks who win. And man, when you're sitting with somebody, I did a lot of crisis work. So when you're sitting with somebody who's got 9-figure net worth and their child is no longer alive in that next room next door, or their spouse just passed away in the other room, there's not a dollar amount for that, right? And so I think the important thing is knowing, and I mean, I've talked about this before, I do this for a living. I know this. I know this academically. I've sat with people, and one of the wildly loneliest moments of my life was my first book went to #1. I'm driving in a black SUV, driving to a book signing. Dave Ramsey calls me, and the head of publishing hands his phone back to me, and I said, "Hello?" And Dave's just yelling, "You did it!" Ah! And it was the coolest phone call, man. And I called my wife. I called my mom. I was like, "We're #1." They're like, "All right." Hung up, went to a book signing. The line is around the door. It's fun. We're having a good time. And then I went back to the hotel. And I remember sitting on the bed, and I have some of the greatest friends in the world, like that have been my friends for 30 years, 40 years. And I started to pick up the phone to call them, and I realized, well, I hadn't talked to that dude in like 4 months. I hadn't talked to this dude like in 6 months. Because in the writing process, I'd stopped going to our Monday night get-togethers, and I'd stopped returning text messages. And I would leave like funny voicemails, but I wouldn't call anybody back. And chasing this thing, I just stopped doing the tiny little things to water the plants of those relationships. And I sat on a bed in a hotel in Dallas, Texas, completely alone with one of the coolest achievements of my life. And here's what's even crazier. We got back to Nashville. We did the media rounds, and it was cool. And then we got back in a room, and they were like, "Hey, let's get right back on the horse and write another book." And I had the thought, "Oh, I'll get another one. I'll get another #1 book, and then." And dude, I did it again, man. And it's such a weird drug, and it's just not real. And so when I look at somebody who's a friend and a mentor of mine like Dave, he's had his Eagles group, and that was something he learned early on. Like, oh, every one of these guys who are super successful implode everything. They lose their kids, their wives, their families. They blow it all up. And so I got to get a group of men that I meet with regularly that will call me out, that will challenge me, that we can discuss hard things. We can disagree and yell and holler and whatever. And that went on for years and years and years and years and years. And so now one of the cornerstones is I just went to Texas, and I went 2 days early to sit with some guys and go have dinner and stay up way too late and talk about politics, and none of us agree. And we all think the other guy's the dumbest guy ever, but we know that's not true. Talk about our kids and families. And I can stay grounded there, right? And so I have to have that in my life because it's like smoking. Loneliness will kill you. And so what's the point in having all the money if it just kills you? What's the point in having a huge, beautiful house and a rad car if your kids don't want to come see you, right? What's the point? For what? For what, right? And now you got a generation of young people that are like, write me out of the will. I don't want it. Like, I don't want what you cashed in my childhood for. And so it's a strange, weird place to be as a parent because you want to give your kid everything, and they're saying, I just want you, man. I just want you. Trying to give your spouse everything, and they just want you. Do we have time? I tell you a story?
Yeah, go. We love stories.
It was towards the end of me writing my second book. I'm in my basement, and I'm sick. I just had, those family vacations, people come over, family stays, and they stay probably too long, and everybody's kind of awkward and weird, and it's just, everybody's like, just go. Like, they just want to go, but their flight's not for a few more. It was just that, So the last person who just left, it was the holiday season. It was cold outside. I was sick and just kind of run down. Got final edits on the book, and I'm lifting weights down in my basement because you can never skip a day, right? Just out of my mind. And my manager calls, and he's like, "Hey, dude, you got a second?" And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, those 2 speaking events? I fly all over the country to speak to businesses and companies. Hey, man, I got some news on those." And I was like, I could hear his voice, and I was like, "Oh, what is it?" And he goes, "We got them, yeah!" And he goes, "I got one. I'm pretty sure I got the other one." And I was in my basement screaming, "Yeah!" These were going to be 2 big game changers for me financially. Yelling to the point that my wife came downstairs into the basement, and she goes, she was laughing. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "We got these." And she looks at me, and she's very wise, and she's still, right? She's a calming presence in our house. I'm a bit of a maniac. And usually when she gets set off, she gets quiet and backs up, and she'll walk away, and we'll circle back later. She didn't do that this time. She walked towards me. And she said this. She said, "I'm watching my husband die, and I'm watching him cheer all the way." And I got kind of quiet. I'm holding the phone, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she stepped forward into my space, real close. And she said, the pie chart that is how much I love you, and the pie piece that is how much money you make is full. Any more money you get will not be because of me and the kids. It will be because of your ego. And I got mad. I was like, hey, I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And she goes, I told you when we got married, I'd never tell you no. So go do your speaking events. Hope you have fun. Go write your books. But don't you dare say it's for us. It's for you. And then she turned to walk away, and she turned and said, John, we have enough. And she walked upstairs. And I grew up with not very much money. It's a very money scarce home. And she did too. And when she walked upstairs, of course, I was mad and indignant and super like, bro. But I realized over a couple of days, I don't have a psychology for the word enough. I didn't even know what that meant. I just had a psychology for hit the gas as hard as you can, because there's always going to be this idea of scarcity. And all that to say is now I'm busier right now than I was then. And my marriage is better than it's ever been because we're intentional about it. And what is this for? And how are we utilizing this? And in the winter, we all know that we put on coats because it's a different season. And so sometimes it's a season of harvest, and sometimes it's a season of rest, and sometimes it's a season of fill in the blank. So now we're much more intentional, and we talk and we discuss and we make plans, and I don't accept things without talking to her. But all that to say is, for what, man? When is enough going to be enough? And that goes back to that earlier. What do you want? Do you want your kids to come home and see you? Because that means you're going to have to miss out on a couple of business deals. Do you want your wife and you to laugh together instead of always being, man, like you gotta plan and prep for that. And there's not a dollar amount for that. So what does enough look like? What does success look like? And let's reverse engineer that picture.
How do you build that enough muscle, right? Because
it's a practice. It's a practice. I'll work on that for the rest of my life.
Right.
And so what the piece I've made is I'm going to make sure my kids have a psychology for it, because I know it's going to be a war for me for the rest of my life. I'm in my 40s. Like, my nervous system is wired for those lunches when my family, like, we were out to eat and I don't think we had enough money to pay the bill. Mm-hmm. All right. Or my dad putting his card in knowing I got 3 hungry kids at home and I don't have enough for groceries. And he was a policeman, right? And so, like, and I remember being a kid thinking, if that's what the public thinks of public servants, I'm going to go make a bunch of money because this is awful. Like, this is not right. My dad's like puts a bulletproof vest on to go to work every day. And we don't have enough for 3 kids and 1 car at our house, right? And so it's wired in there. And so I'm going to have to practice enough. I'm going to have to practice saying no to business deals. I'm going to have to practice saying not right now. And so a couple of times in the past 4 or 5 months, I've said no, and I feel it, man. And I exhale. And I realize my body's doing right. It's trying to protect me, and because that's what it knows. And I'm going to do the next right thing, which is I'm going to say no to this because school season's coming up. It's going to be a busy month, and I'm going to be present for my family. And then September comes, it's going to be wild again. And so, but my wife and I are going to talk about it. But it's something you practice. And I want my kids to know there's times for working 20-hour days for years on end. And then there's also times for saying, no, I'm not going to miss that soccer game.
As smart as you are, I think your wife might be a bit smarter than you.
Dude. Yeah. She was Dr. Delony way before me. There's no. Yeah.
That's awesome. So it sounds like at some point you and your wife were and still are on the same page. There are people listening that, the wife is here on the finances, he's over here. One spouse is here on, raising the kids and doing it this way. How do you bridge the gap on the communication? Meaning, you were mad when your wife said that to you, but you saw the light. Mm-hmm. What if a spouse doesn't see the light? How do you get them on the same page? And just to piggyback off that, when we do financial coaching, for free for people, we tell them we will only meet with you if the spouse is there with you.
Amen. Good for y'all. It's awesome.
But how do you get a wife, a husband to the table if they are in a completely separate room?
It's almost never about the thing. And what I mean by that is Dave's been saying for years, money's a symptom. Like, your debt problems, your financial situation is almost always a symptom of challenges going on at home, challenges going on inside of you, challenges going like some sort of oppression you're facing, but it's a symptom. Right. And so most people, when they get excited about money or they want to change their money habits or they want to decide, like, let's start thinking about the future or whatever the changes they need to make, they blitzkrieg their partner with a spreadsheet or a here's what we're all going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that never works, right? Because often, almost always, that starts with a you, a finger pointing. You need to sell this. I'm going to start doing this and you're going to start. And when somebody comes at you with a you statement, you wall up. It's part of our bodies. You're starting to fight. I'm going to fight you back, or I'm going to wall you off, or I'm going to shut down. The two recommendations I always have for people who are on different pages with their spouse about or whoever they're with, about kids, about parenting, about money, is be honest with yourself about the root. It's very easy for my wife to come at me and say, I can't believe you're thinking about buying a truck. We're not buying a truck. And then, it's on. Like, I work hard. I'm buying a truck. It's in my house. Like, whatever. It's different when she comes and says, I'm scared to death and I can't breathe. I'm scared about our financial situation. Will you sit down with me? Yes. Right. And the same as I'm scared. I think somebody's outside. Will you go look? Dang right I will. Right. Mm-hmm. And so if you are scared about and you're not on the same page with your partner, be honest about the fear part and be vulnerable enough to say that. And it's especially challenging for men. And I don't want to overgender it, but men are taught in multiple communities, you don't share that vulnerability. And sometimes you have a spouse that's out of control with their spending, or there's just can't stop buying and buying. And my kids are going to have this, and my kids are going to wear this, and I'm going to drive this. Sit down and say, I'm just looking at this. I'm scared. And when you make an I statement, that's an invitation. When you make a you statement, it's a fight. And so I'm scared. I don't know what to do next. I'm not doing a good job of communicating with you. Can you teach me? Can you help me how I can best love you? Because I'm not doing a good job of communicating. And that's an invitation. And if your person won't have that conversation, y'all got deeper issues, right? That's marriage therapist time. Mm-hmm. That is, go talk to a spiritual advisor at that point, because you're way further apart. I say this often, but we think in pictures, but we speak in words, right? And so that's where there was a famous psychiatrist named William Glasser who said, I can fix marriages in about 2 sessions. I remember rolling my eyes at that. And he just said, it's pictures and words, man. We think in pictures, but we speak in words. And what I mean by that is, what he meant by that is, I'll tell my wife, hey, we got to be tighter with our money. She'll say, cool. Tighter for money for her means, all right, I'm going to go to the grocery store and try to spend $100. I'm going to forego milk. I'm going to forego eggs. We're just going to get the bare essentials because we're going to be tighter with our money. That's the picture that popped up in her head. The picture in my head was, we're only going to go out to eat 4 times a week, not 5. Right? We got to slow down a little bit. And so I come home with takeout the next day. And then the next day, I'm like, hey, meet us at such and such a restaurant. I'll meet you there after work. And she's kind of confused, but she does. And then she comes home with 2 sacks from the groceries, little sacks with just the bare minimums. And I'm like, there's no food in this house, right? We both use the words, let's be tighter with our money, but we had different pictures. And so if couples, when it comes to parenting, hey, you need to be more chill with our son. All right, what does that mean, right? Or I need some more help around here. Okay, cool. I got a picture of what that means. I'm going to put my shoes away. My wife has a picture of, you're going to do bath time, you're going to do bedtime, you're going to roof the house. So instead of saying the words, the conversation that my wife and I have almost every day of our lives is, what's your picture of today look like? That helps when we're going to my in-laws, because the picture of me going to my in-laws is I'm going out to the back field and I won't disappear till dinner time. Her picture is, you're going to sit on the couch and we're just going to talk for like 4 hours, right? And I go to the back field and she's upset. Or she's like, you're sitting right here and I'm upset. Well, man, if I say, hey, what's your picture of this trip? And she says, can we just sit in there? And I know it's going to be tough. Can we just sit in there and talk? Like, yeah, I can do that. Right? And now we both are aligned in what this thing's going to look like. Same with your money, same with kids, same with your sex and intimacy, same with all of it, right? Mm-hmm. What's your picture of this look like? And we can align those pictures pretty quick.
Before we get back to the episode, I want to tell you about Chomesh. Have you heard about this? Let me back up. You're just a regular guy. You're trying to pay the bills, expenses are growing, and you're starting to panic just a little bit. You don't have very high expectations of making millions of dollars, and you're just trying to get by. But I need to tell you something. Our commentators have a prescription for a better option. You continue doing what you're doing, but you give more charity. You give more tzedakah. Hundreds of people are taking the words of the Rush, who lived in the 13th and 14th centuries, to heart. The Rush says, quote, "One who keeps Chomesh is promised wealth," end quote. So what is Chomesh? Chomesh is giving 20% of your post-tax earnings to charity, to tzedakah, not more than 20%. And it sounds like a lot, because it is. But before you continue on, it's worth reading the stories of blessings that have happened to people who have given Chomesh, given 20% of their post-tax earnings. There's a lot to know about Chomesh. There are sources, there are stories. I'm going to link to the website in the PDF of the how-to and those stories in the show notes. Take a look there, hop around. You can sign up if you are committed to giving 20% of your charity away, right? We know that there's a mitzvah to do 10%, but the promises of wealth are there for those that give more, according to the Sfarim HaKadoshim, according to the holy commentators. So you might be giving Chomesh already. The team at Chomesh would love to know just how you're doing it, and they have a sign-up link. You can sign up for this incredible movement. Even if you're not ready, you can visit the site. You can sign up for their informative newsletter. Again, these are a group of people, dedicated Jews, who are encouraging others to give 20% of their earnings to charity. And as they say, a Chomesh Yid is a wealthy Yid. Now, let's discuss Israel. I want to paint a scenario for you. Imagine waking up each day unsure if you can provide food for your family. Well, in Israel, many of the poorest families face this harsh reality day in and day out. They find themselves in the heartbreaking position of begging their relatives, friends, and community for help just to secure the next meal. This constant struggle not only affects their physical well-being, but drastically hurts their dignity and self-respect, as you can imagine. But together, we can make a difference. We really can. There's a food program in Israel that's stepping in to help these families. They provide nourishment, restore a sense of dignity. This program from Colel Chabad relies on the generosity of people like you. They cannot do this vital work without you. And they see these cases up close and personal, and they say it breaks their hearts. These are real people that are asking friends in a WhatsApp message. They're calling an uncle. They're literally going door to door. And without Colel Chabad, that would never stop. So Colel Chabad needs our help to do this great work. If you want to lend a hand, check out kohelchabad.org/kosher money. The link is in the show notes. Whatever you can give, let's pull together and support our family and friends in Israel. This war has taken a great toll on them, and Colel Chabad needs our help. So every donation, no matter the size, no matter the currency, makes a real impact. Again, the link is in the show notes. Thank you for your support. Thank you on behalf of everyone in Israel who may or may not speak the language that you speak, but they know and feel your support. And Colel Chabad is our partner in all of this. So reach into your pockets, pull out your credit cards, make a donation, whatever you can. Literally $5 goes a really long way, and we cannot thank you enough. Now back to this week's episode.
You mentioned before about treating the core and not the symptom. I often see people reach out and say, hey, so-and-so needs a job. So-and-so needs a job again. And at some point, I'm thinking, did he take care of his anger management issue? I want to talk a little bit more about that, because I think it's happening to people without even them realizing.
Absolutely.
Right? How do you get someone, and I love how you positioned it, where it's not you, it's I. But for somebody that is struggling through that, how do you educate them on, hey, come sit down, right? I can find you a job, but it's not going to last, right? How do you work through that?
It's underneath what you just said. Here's what I know about me. I'm real emotional. I get fired up. And if Dave Ramsey walks in and says, I need to see you at 4, I'm not happy. By the time 4 o'clock rolls around, I'm ready to go to war, right? Or I'm thinking of every excuse. And I get in the office and he's like, I'm not happy about how great your show's doing, right? But I start creating this cascade of stories. I get real emotional. And what I know about me is when I get emotional, I don't see the world as it truly is. So what that means is I have to have a couple of close friends in my life that I can call. And we have a culture that's very, very individualized, and that's not how our bodies are designed to work. And so I've got a buddy named Todd who works in finance in Texas. And whenever I start feeling like, the money is this, and I work on the Ramsey show, but I'll call him and say, hey man, is this dumb? And he'll go, yeah, that's real dumb. Don't do that, right? I'm gonna pull all my money out of the market. I'm gonna bury it in the yard. He's like, yeah, don't do that. My smart vestor, my financial advisor, he'll text me. I've known him for 30 years. He'll text me and say, hey, you're about to get an email. Don't open it. Hit delete. You're gonna get a letter from your whatever. Just throw it away. Because he knows me and knows I'm gonna get over dramatic. So you have to have people in your life that you trust that can say, I'm going to help you get another job. But before I put my name on the line for you again, we got to talk about why you keep getting fired. Like, let's talk about it. Well, they want me to be there at 8 every day. Yeah, that's work. So you have to ask yourself, do you need to go into business for yourself, washing windows? Because if you want a job with health insurance and this, here's the trade you make. You wear the clothes that they tell you you're going to wear. You cut your hair like they tell you you're going to cut it. And that's part of the deal you make, man. And fighting that is, why would you fight that, right? Mm-hmm. You want health insurance, then you're going to park where they tell you to park. You can't just park in the front, right? And so I think it's having somebody that will be honest with you. And if you say, I just can't in my guts do that, cool. And you're going to be a sole proprietor and you're going to have to work really, really, really hard, right? And that's the trade you make. But I think you have to have people in your life. And if you don't have anybody, I would tell you that's for your psychological health, your physical health, for your emotional health, make that a top priority. But if you don't, I have kind of a rule of 3. If the same thing happens to you 3 times, look in the mirror. If you blow your budget one month, all right, it happens. You blow it a second time, yikes. Third time, you got some discipline challenges and there's a core issue where you're really struggling with some deeper issues. Let's deal with that. Because this is just a symptom. This is just an alarm system letting you know that your body's trying to solve some sort of angst by spending, and we need to deal with that.
You remind me of a friend who will not tell his employees anything bad on a Friday because he knows going into the weekend.
That's such a gift. What a great leader.
Monday, 11 a.m., fine, we'll have a conversation.
What a great leader.
And it's so important because I've been there, right? Mm-hmm. Like that not knowing will get my heart rate up to 150, 160. And it's nerve-wracking.
We have a internal ethos here that leaders aren't allowed to send emails after hours.
Oh, I like that.
And on my Outlook, when I start to send an email at 7:45 p.m., it will say, click this button so it will send it tomorrow morning. And there's days I get 3 emails from Dave Ramsey at 6 a.m., right? And I know he sent them but the company has learned that when your boss sends you an email at 11 p.m. and it's like, hey, I need this report, you're not going to sleep. Mm-hmm. Right. And then that report that you get done at 2 a.m. it's not going to be as good. Right. And so it's really about, are you a leader because of power and you want to be able to tell people what to do? Or do you want great work? Because if you want great work, your employees need a weekend with their families. They need to go exercise. They need to go have fun. And then they get back to work and they are all in when they get to work.
Right.
That's a great leader.
They need to be people to be people.
Yeah. And by the way, that applies with your kids and your spouse too. Mm. Don't send a text message to your wife at 4:45 and say, when I get home today, you have no idea don't do that. Because now, you're just saying, hey, I fell in the sewer today. I'm gonna drag you in with me, at least for the next 3 hours till I get home. Don't do that. Tell your wife, say, I love you. This has been a hard day for me. I can't wait to see you. I have to tell you about some wild things that happened to me. Then she's gonna participate. She's gonna be excited. What do we talk about? Don't do that with your kids, right? It's just about being an adult.
It reminds me of the guy who's driving and he gets cut off and the guy comes out, screams at him, you cut me, and he just takes it calm and someone's watching him saying, hey, okay, I know you don't have road rage, but you acted as if he was talking to you calmly. And he goes, that guy has garbage. Mm-hmm. He was trying to throw his garbage on me. Mm-hmm. And I said, not today, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, think about this. And there's a psychological construct that's not important, but how often do we get in the heads of other people and make up stories about why they're doing what they're doing? We do that all the time. And there's some psychological research that discusses whenever you blow your diet, it's because you have a lot of stress going on. When that guy blows his diet, it's because he's a lazy piece of crap, right? We create stories, or that guy cut you off in traffic. It's because he's doing drugs and he's just a stupid millennial. And the challenge is, over time, if I can change that story that I make up, that instant story I make up about the person, to one that's one of compassion and one of kindness and one of best intentions, I'm the only one that suffers when I make up a negative story. That guy in the car doesn't know. He doesn't know. The guy that takes my seat in the subway right when I'm turning around to get my bag and he sits down, he doesn't know what I'm thinking. I'm just giving my own self a stroke and my own self heart issues, right? Or I could say, that guy's wife's about to pass away. He's exhausted because he's been up for 48 hours. I'm going to let him have my seat. I get to pick what story I make up. One of those makes me feel powerful and kills me, and one of those makes me feel compassionate and gives me peace. I'm going to choose that story.
There's a teaching in Judaism to judge others favorably.
What
and
a gift. That's a great teaching.
It's pounded in, day out. And like your rabbi will sometimes give you a scenario and say, hey, you witness so-and-so doing such and such. Mm-hmm. What do you think? And everyone's like writing, oh, he's terrible, right? Yeah. He's a robber. He's trying to steal money. And it's like, actually, he was returning the money, to someone. Yeah. And it's like that muscle, if you build it, similar to what you were saying about having enough, life's a journey, right? It's not like, I think when we're kids, once we turn 18, 21, I have it all figured out. I'm the best version of me I can possibly be. But yet you're in your 40s and you're saying, hey, I still got ways to go, but I'm working on it.
Now I love the adventure, right? I think it's my buddy Sal DeStefano said, the man who loves the journey will always go further than the man who loves the destination. Always. And like, I used to really want to get big muscles. Now I like feeling good. So I go to the gym way more. You know what I mean? I exercise way more. And I'm much more compassionate with myself. And I want to have $1 million. I want to not worry about money. And I want to be able to buy my daughter something obnoxious just so whoever she chooses to date one day will have a really tough example to live up to. I want my wife to have the best of the best of the best. So that is way more fuel to work harder than just getting some arbitrary bank account number. All right.
We have a few minutes left. I want to hit on a couple of different topics. We mentioned work, and I think college and university has, the last few years has, obviously been in the news, but how we think about it, especially as student debt is growing. How do you, as a doctor, as someone who educates, been educated, you're raising your kids, when you think about college education, do you think you're thinking about it differently now than you were maybe a few years ago when your kid turns to you and says, should I be doing such and such? Should I be going to college? Should I be going to university? What are the thoughts that are going through your head?
I have a different opinion on this than most, and so you can take that with a grain of salt. Yeah. And I think it's fair to put my bias out. I worked as a university dean of students and a professor for 20 years, right? So that's my world. But I've also stayed in the data, and I've also looked at what I would call the anecdata, right? I don't know a person of means. I don't know a wealthy person. I'm sure they exist. I don't know any personally that have done very well for themselves that is not also saving money for their kid to go to college. Even folks who are espousing, college is going away, you don't need to do this, they've got 529 accounts for their kids. Their kids are going to school. And so I think I want to look at, I learned a long time ago to stop asking people, hey, what do you think about? And I just ask them, what do you do with your kids? And so I hear a lot of talk, and I do think with AI, the idea of education will change dramatically, right? If I have a personal AI assistant that helps me answer questions, not just gives me answers like Google, but helps me learn math, and it can watch and teach me, that will change education. There's no question about it. And education has gotten insanely expensive. And I'll also say it's gotten expensive because the consumers demanded it. It's gotten expensive because we won't go to schools that don't have huge columns and gargoyles and big football teams and medical clinics and counseling centers. So the consumer has done this weird thing where they've demanded all of this and demanded lawmakers pass laws that you have to have these services and all this. And then we got mad that it got expensive, right? So it's a weird catch-22. But at the end of the day, there's two very important things I think about education, or three. Number one, schools have really flatlined out, meaning maybe 100 years ago, there was a dramatic difference between the education you got at Harvard versus your local state school. Now your local state school's filled up with professors who went to Harvard and Ohio State and University of Texas. They're there now. And so there's been a flattening out. So you can get an extraordinary education, especially if you're an engaged student, from a local regional college that you can pay cash for. So it's a big deal to me. I'm watching the student debt bury a generation of people. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't want to go to a doctor that owes student loans. Why? Because that doctor has to keep their job because they have to pay that student loan off. That means that doctor, when the pharmacy company comes in and says, you're going to prescribe this, and he's like, I don't think that's right. I don't want that doctor. I want a doctor that it's not beholden to anybody. And that doctor will say, I'm going to give you this, right? That's tough. I don't want a musician to write poetry and make music who owes student loans, because then you're going to have to hedge your art a bit. Like, I want people to be full-throated out there in the world. I don't want a minister who's got to keep his parish happy and doesn't tell the truth, right? The theological truth, because he got student loan payment, right? So I think it's compressing our whole culture. And so I want you to pay cash for college. All I can speak personally, I'm going to send my kids to school. And I also am not going to care a lot about the brand name. And I've got my own little formulas for what I want my kid, what I hope they experience. And if my son comes to me and says, I really want to become the best HVAC person in the Nashville region, game on, right? And we're going to send him to HVAC school, and I'm going to put him around a bunch of guys who own HVAC companies because I want him to learn what leadership looks like, and I want him to learn these examples. And I'm probably going to tell him, go learn how to be the best plumber, and I'm going to see about getting you an MBA too, because I want you to see how this machine works, right? And you may not need it for your business, but you're going to be doing air conditioners on people who play this different game, right? So education's critical. It just is. And anyone who tells you, like, you don't need that, I don't think that's right. I think the Steve Jobs and I think the Zuckerbergs, I think that the Bill Gates, like those three, I think those examples get played out a lot, and they're right. They dropped out of school and they made $1 jillion. The band of folks who dropped out and they got $20,000 worth of student debt and they never went back, that band of folks who are struggling is huge. The third thing about college that I think is critical that we don't talk about a lot is I just spent a week at a faith camp with high school kids and college kids in New Mexico. The directors of that camp are men and women I've known for 30 years. I met them in the residence hall. I met them in a dorm. I met my wife there. I met the guy who helps me with my finances. I met my SmartVestor Pro. I met my best friends at the university because we were kids and we had to do hard things together, and we had to practice friendship together, and we had to say I'm sorry together, and we had to get in fights together. And so I think if you're going to skip the education system, you've got to quadruple down on the social aspect and put yourself in positions where you have close friends and relationships, and you all do hard stuff and you make mistakes together and you say, I'm sorry. And you have a whole bunch of people who think differently than you. And I think that's a critical part that we just throw out the window. And so I think there's something powerful about education. And I think the student loan system is crippling and awful, right? It's very similar to the medical community. Like, we learned during COVID, like, oh man, I thought my whole life that at the end of the day, I know people want to make money. I thought the medical system was for me. And we all learned it's not. It's for itself. And I don't want a world without doctors, right? I want to be able to go to the doctor when I need somebody. I've had surgery on my knees. I need somebody to help me out. So it's both and, right? So that's my N=1 take on education. I also say if you're going to go to college, if you're going to pay the money to go to class, do the assignments. If a professor tells you to read a book, even if you think the professor's dumb, read that book. Like, don't go to a college just because you already know that college agrees with you. Like, why in the world would you read a book of something you already know and believe? We read books, we listen to podcasts, we have these conversations because we learn things, right? And we get to say, I was wrong. I got something new information today, right? And so go where people are going to challenge you and push you and lean on you and squish you, and you're going to have hard conversations. And so I'm high on it. And also just know that I'm regularly in communication with college presidents, and I speak to those groups and I speak to academic groups, and I'm telling them your whole thing's going to go away because y'all will not put a handle on the cost. and you won't put a handle on the mission, and you won't put a handle on the madness that's happening in some of these academic communities. They're just out of control,
Right.
letting the inmates run the asylum. You can't do that, right? So it's both and.
9 questions down, 900 to go.
Hey, we can keep talking.
Yeah, might have to do a round 2.
Let's do it, man. Anytime.
Thank you so much.
I talk too much. They
No,
know.
this was phenomenal.
I talk way too much.
They don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you. So
I mean, before we wrap,
go ahead.
I'm interested in your take on education, on college. I'm always just fascinated by people's take on it.
No one has ever asked me a question on my podcast.
Well, there you go. I'm interested. You're a smart guy. You talk to a lot of smart people.
Here are my thoughts on education. I have seen people that have done tremendously well without college, without education. I mean, the whole Hasidic community, you communicate with them, it's all voice notes, because they don't, or many of them don't, they're going to kill me. They're going to be like, you picked the wrong word. Many of them have a hard time writing or expressing themselves in the written word.
Okay.
But they are massively successful. They're running $200-300 million companies off of voice notes.
Storytellers.
Yeah. Very, very, very personable, very understanding, can read a room, etc. So I have seen it. It doesn't mean that that's the way. I wouldn't push my kids in that direction. Gotcha. I do believe being educated, and I love that you brought up the plumber example, the HVAC, because I think academia, we get very focused on, being a CPA, being a doctor, being a lawyer, and those are great tracks. But I have friends that own plumbing companies that when they go to work, they put on dirty jeans because they know that they're gonna, be in a sewer pit that day, and at the end of the week, they come home with money.
Yeah, they
right?
do. Real money.
Real money, right? So like
my flushing my toilet is not a theory. It's got flush.
right. So this idea, the example you brought, I love it. HVAC school, right? There's a ton of Jews that are in the trade profession, right? I'm not saying that they're necessarily tailors, but if you play your cards right, you can be the top plumber in Brooklyn, New York, and have satellite offices or whatnot. So if your kid does want to go HVAC, I highly recommend it.
All day.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be honest about this. Every track we have comes at a cost. If, like me as a nerd, I got 2 PhDs. I spent a lot of time in classrooms. I know a lot about a thing, but that's different. Like, I can learn all of the stages of grief. I can learn all about the right things to say. You hug a mom whose 6-year-old kid is dead in that next room, you're in it now. Now your education begins, right? Similarly, I can do all of those things, and when I'm 50, if I'm not continually learning and evolving with knowledge, with new groups of people, I'm out. And similarly, one of my best friends on planet Earth came to the States. He had an engineering degree from Uruguay, and we wouldn't accept it because we're too hoity-toity. So he started a mobile oil change. He had a truck and $100, and he started changing people's oil from his church in their driveway. And now it's this. But he's also 62, and he can't move his hands. And so there's something about, okay, if you're going to do that, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your body. And you're going to have to do some things that are going to be a little bit different because we're going to do this for the long term. And he didn't have a succession plan. He was the guy. And he's so amazing. And it's hard for it. He hurts every day, right? So everything path we take has a cost and a challenge. And we just have to be honest about what is that challenge going to require us to do every day, day in and day out, so this thing keeps going over the long term. And man, if we're that intentional and that honest, amazing. Amazing. And I love, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go.
The Hasidic community, they've got each other. They got a gang. They got people. They've got community. And that goes back to the people you met in the dorm. Man, if you got people you can ride with, they'll tell you stories and teach you and walk alongside you and mentor you, and
well said.
Game on.
Well said.
Hey, thanks for your hospitality, brother.
He was hospitable to me. We are going to do this again, whether he wants to or not. I will show up to this door, knock on it until he opens up.
You're the man.
Doc, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
And that'll do it for another solid episode of Kosher Money. Let me ask you, how great is Dr. Delony? Pretty great, right? What I love about the folks at Ramsey is how genuine they are. They're not afraid, unapologetic to share their flaws, their mistakes. And, they say they've made a lot, but They tell you what to do to correct them. They're smart and they're kind. It's the perfect combination. And I'd say thank you to our friends at Ramsey Solutions. So thank you to Dave. Thank you to Dr. Delony. Thank you to Samantha. Thank you to Amanda. Thank you to everybody on the team there. Super, super awesome. If you're in the market for a budgeting app, Dave did not tell me to tell you this, but I'm going to give them a shout out. The Every Dollar app. Take a look. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Start a free trial. See if it's for you. If you budget, you become smarter. You know where your money's going. And there's a sense of calmness that comes over you. So take a look. If you'd like to be entered for the chance to win an awesome and free Dave Ramsey book, we'll pick 2 commenters. Okay, that could be you, who include one of the following 2 words in their comment on YouTube. Either eye-opening or smart. So that's really 3 words, right? But use the words however you'd like. You can use either eye-opening or smart or both, eye-opening or smart, and extra credit if you use it seamlessly in your comment. Congrats to our latest 2 winners of a Dave Ramsey book, Toby Lou 8153 and Yankee Y611. Hit us up on livingchaim.com so we can get those books sent to you, Toby and Yankee. Thank you to the sponsors of this week's episode, Twillory. You can see I'm wearing their ear jacket. I got the ear pants on. I'm wearing their polo shirt. The Donors Fund, Chomesh, and Colel Chabad. Check them all out by clicking on the links in the show notes. If you're new here, welcome. Where have you been all my life? If you, Mr. New Person, or Mrs. New Person, or Miss New Person, if you would benefit from a financial advisor or speaking to somebody for free to help you budget, get out of debt, anything finance related, find a job, they have resources. So visit the OU's livingsmarterjewish.org. They've literally helped thousands of people just like you. We're nearing 10,000. So those numbers will change. They are changing, and lives are changing for the better. So if you need help, you can reach out, livingsmarterjewish.org. People who literally have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars are reaching out, smartly setting themselves up for the future. You have the power of time, especially if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It's not too late. Get things in order. Power to you. If you want to help us out big time, which I'm sure you do because I can tell you're a good person. Yes, you driving the car on the Van Wyck. What's up? Please visit, after you park, Apple Podcasts or Spotify and rate us 5 stars. That's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And whoever said I can't end an episode with the words easy peasy lemon squeezy. See you next week.
Living L'chaim.